There was a young man claiming to be Mamdu living in a small village. There was a large cemetery in this village. One day, while Mamdu was returning to the house as he used to with his motorcycle in the middle of the night, no one else was on the way as the village was small and its few people were always used to sleeping in Morocco. Its streets contained no lighting. Mamdu only saw the road on his motorcycle lights. In a way to the house, Mamdu passed the graveyard door, and here he began to hear songs and loud laughter. In a sound he seemed familiar. He turned off his motorcycle so he could be sure of what he was hearing, that voice of an old lady who had just died and was well known. Mamdu's body trembled just because of the idea and the bear of terror in itself. He slowly approached the grave door and opened its door to look at what was happening there. He found no one, resorting to God from Satan al-Rahim and locking the door again, trying to convince himself that he was fancy. And it was the atmosphere, the night and the darkness that created all this. Mamdu rode his bike again, and once he started walking away from the cemetery, he again heard those voices and songs in a woman's voice. Mamdu was very terrified, knowing inside him that he would not be able to complete his life and sleep in a comfortable bed if he did not return and ascertain and understand what was happening. Otherwise, curiosity and fear would kill him, and Mamdu returned to the cemetery again, opened the door and took a look this time and still heard those voices. Suddenly he heard a cry that terrified him so much he locked the door in haste. He cycled to a place speeding, and from that day Mamdu never approached that cemetery, especially at midnight.
My grandmother lives in a small village, and near my grandmother there is farmland, and in one of these lands there are tombs, and because my grandfather owns one of these lands, he goes there, and one night I wanted to stay with them one night. In fact, this night I kept having them sitting, and I asked my grandfather about this house that no one would dare enter, and he said, "You're still young, you shouldn't ask." But I insisted I know the story of this damn house, and he told me. The owner of this house was very drunk and loved to flirt with women, and it was weird. He goes out at night and goes to the cemeteries and keeps crying and getting drunk, and on the night this man came home, he was in bad shape, and when he saw his wife, he beat her up and tied her up. People heard her screams, but nobody dared to enter this house, and then I asked him why. He said that this house was known to be doing quacks, so they were afraid of it. And then he said to me, and I came the damn night, this woman killed her husband, burned him down, then killed herself. And from her time, people heard voices in this house. They also smell a fire and hear this guy crying at night. Some said they saw him at night at the cemeteries. But I was excited to see this house so much. And I said to an empty son that we go there, he's equal to me, and he agreed. Because we didn't know this was going to happen with us. Something happened. That shocked us all, made me tired, and went to the hospital for a whole week. We went to this house together. When we came in, I felt something was stifling me, and he felt there was something weighing down his feet. And not that we weren't giving up, we tried to get in. But the door was locked, so we decided to jump out of the net, but when he tried to open it, we heard a voice, like a woman, cry. She said that, "Oh, don't beat me out of this." But we thought there was someone inside, and an uncle's son decided to help him. I told him I was afraid. He said we should help the person inside. And we were only 15 years old, so I agreed, and we jumped out of the nets. But when we walked in, we didn't find anything in there. We had fantasies on the walls. Suddenly, he closed the nets, and then we screamed. But we heard a man say, "Don't scream, you'll be killed." And then someone came with his son and helped us, and when I got home I was not talking, and then he cheated on me, and I went to the hospital, and all the time I was in the hospital, I heard this woman crying. I never slept there anymore, and it's been 3 years, but I remember it like it happened yesterday.